Welcome back to another Bible study. We're going to talk about what does the Bible think about our health and wellness. Today is June 15th. I hope we get something out of this today. Now, when people think about health and wellness, of course, wellness and health is associated with your physical health as well as emotional, mental, spiritual. So, we have a term that we call mental health awareness, or our physical health awareness, things like that. We say diets, we say exercise. The Bible doesn't always emphasize that specifically, but there are some things in the Bible where it actually talks about health, and we're just going to talk about certain things. It's not definitely not a comprehensive, exhaustive study on that topic, but these are some things that I think will kind of help us understand how the Most High views health and wellness and how he wants us to be as a people. So, this is Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not onto your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, he shall direct your paths. Be not wise in your own eyes, fear the Lord, and depart from evil." Verse 8, "It shall be health to your navel and marrow to your bones." So he's saying that when you trust in the Lord and allow him to direct your paths, and you fear him, that's going to be health for you. So, fearing the Most High and obeying His ways is going to lead to a healthy life. It's going to lead to a better life for you. And just these verses alone, it basically summarizes the Bible for us in regards to how He wants us to live. He wants us to live a life that is based on following Him, and it's going to go well for us. So when we don't follow the Most High, things tend to not go as right mentally as well as physically. So let's talk about some things that he wants us to do in regards to obeying him. So what does he say about food and diet? Because that's one of the mainstays of our lifestyle is what we eat, what we take in, what we ingest. And what does the Bible says about food? Well, one of the first things he says in Genesis chapter 1, he said, when he's talking to Adam, he said, God said, "Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree in which is fruit of the tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat." So he said, to the first man, I give you every seed bearing plant is food for you, like fruits and vegetables. That's the first thing that he told us that we should eat: fruits and vegetables. That's even to this day we understand that having a diet full of roughage and vegetables and fruits is going to lead to more antioxidants and more vitamins for our body, a healthy colon, so we can digest them well, and that's ultimately we already know that's going to be good for us. So what else does he say in verse 3? Chapter 9, verse 3 of Genesis, when he's talking to Noah, he says, "Every moving thing that lives shall be meat for you. Even as the green herb have I given you all things, but flesh which with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, thou shalt not eat." So now, this is the first time that the Most High told Noah that you can eat animals, but he said, don't eat blood. Don't eat animals with like live blood. Don't eat like basically raw meats. Don't eat raw animals. Uh, by extension, don't do cannibalism as well. It's like things that he wants things to be done in order. And that's a general commandment. Now, when we get to the law of Moses, the Mosaic law in Leviticus 11, verse 1 talks about certain animals that we should eat and certain animals that we should not eat. Verse 1, the Lord spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying unto them, "Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, These are the beasts which you shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth." I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but we know that, he says that you can eat animals that have the splitting hoof, and that chew the cud, meaning that they regurgitate their food before they swallow. And some examples of animals like that, would be like the ox or the antelope, the moose or the cow or a goat, sheep, things like that. Those are what they call clean land animals. And then it goes into birds as well. as quail. Or we have the modern day chicken. Quail is actually even more healthier than a chicken. It actually has a higher concentration of vitamin C and actually has leaner protein than chicken. I don't know why this picture has a picture of a duck because I wouldn't think that a duck is clean. Turkey is controversial to some groups, but technically it is a clean animal. And then also fish with scales and fins are clean, as well as grasshoppers. People may think that's kind of gross, but grasshoppers, crickets, locusts, that's actually clean in the dietary law. We see that John the Baptist he had a diet of honey and locusts when he's mentioned in the New Testament. So we see that is it's clean. And actually, grasshoppers have actually a high amount of protein in them as well, if you didn't know. But things that we're not supposed to eat, of course, dogs. We see crabs, lobster, rabbit, pig, cat, bats, vultures. You know, birds that eat roadkill, like carrion, sharks, turtles, rats, snails. Many cultures these are delicacies, really. Many cultures they eat snails, they eat rabbit, they eat tortoise. That's kind of a kangaroo. Like a lot of cultures eat that, but we're not supposed to eat those because a lot of those animals they carry a lot of diseases. Especially these animals, reptiles carry salmonella very commonly. To get salmonella from tortoise. Um, I remember I wanted to actually get a pet turtle, and when I was younger, I was in college. But I remember my sister was pregnant with a child, and I didn't want to have the risk of having a tortoise, kind of having salmonella on my hands and accidentally touching the baby. I didn't want to have that risk of salmonella because I actually seen a child get salmonella from someone having a pet reptile in the house, and they can be very deadly. Very serious complications. A pig, has certain diseases. Trichomoniasis is a very big pathogen in undercooked pork. That's very, very big. As well as other, bacteria that can just live. Tularemia in rabbits. That's very common bacteria that can be seen in undercooked rabbit. So that's why it's like there are some things that the Most High already understood about things that we shouldn't be eating to protect us, and it's not to withhold things from us. It's really to protect us. From like clams, oysters. Vibriosis is also a pathogen that's common in oysters and shellfish, and especially during the summer months. We're not supposed to eat those types of food anyway, but definitely during like uh, May through I think August, that's when you're really not supposed to eat like oysters and clams because that's at a higher risk of vibriosis, and that can cause a very severe GI disease. So things like that are in the Bible, not explicitly telling us this, but now, through understanding of science, we actually have medical research that shows that these animals are known to carry these types of disorders. But the Bible has told us this for centuries to not eat these types of animals all already. It just didn't give us the explicit details why. So that's just a brief about food and things like that. But now let's go into pregnancy and postpartum. And when we talk about pregnancy, also, what does the Bible has to say about bodily fluids? Because of course, in order to become pregnant, a man and a woman has to exchange bodily fluids, right? So let's say what does the Bible say about that? Leviticus chapter 15, verse 16. If a man's seed of copulation go out from him, he shall wash all his flesh in water and be unclean until the evening. What does that mean? By seed of copulation, it's talking about his sperm, his semen. When a man ejaculates, it says that after a man ejaculates, he should go wash himself because that's also cleanliness. The Bible talks about being clean. The Bible doesn't want us to walk around in our own filth and our own bodily fluids. It wants us to be clean because even the Most High understands. He wants us to understand that that old saying how they used to say cleanliness next to godliness. That's not in the Bible per se, but being clean is also you want to be ceremonially clean for the Most High because we also serve a God who's a king. He's a literal king. So we also want to make sure that we present ourselves in a way that is acceptable and honorable, full of dignity. So we don't want to just not necessarily not dress to the now I'm not talking about dress, but just even how we present ourselves on a day basis and things that we excrete from our bodies. He wants us to wash that off just to be clean. And also, verse 17 wants us to wash the garment. He said, every garment, every skin, whereupon it was seed of copulation, shall be washed with water and be unclean until the evening. Because we now know that, when you exchange bodily fluids, you can get things like hepatitis, you can get STIs, STDs from bodily fluids. So the Bible doesn't say that explicitly, but we know that it's true. But see how the Bible already tells us already to be clean, to wash things when we see things like that, when we see blood, when we see bodily fluids. He wants us to wash it clean, wash it off our own body, wash it off the things that may have been exposed to. And also in the same chapter, it talks about menstruation, talks about how we have to, if a woman's on her menstrual cycle, you're supposed to wash the clothes, wash the sheets that she sleeps on, things like that. It's important for us to keep clean because he understands that, you can get someone sick or you can actually spread diseases from bodily fluids being on certain objects and certain clothes and certain fabrics and things like that. And also on top of that, fabrics. People like to say you can't keep the law because we wear mixed fabrics. Like, what are you going to do? Just wear cotton and linen? Well, actually, there's some research that shows that if you wear certain linen and cotton, that's actually better for your reproductive organs. You may notice that a lot of women undergarments or delicate, delicate garments like panties. You'll see that even if the main fabric is made out of satin or things like that, the part that is actually closest to your private parts is made out of cotton because they understand that cotton is actually better for your vaginal health. That's been shown that if you wear things like polyester rayon, that's not good for your bodily health right there. It can actually lead to increased yeast, different types of things that can grow that can cause yeast infections and increase the risk for BV, things like that. And it's actually been shown that when you wear cotton and linen, breathable fabrics, you don't necessarily have those issues as commonly as someone who does wear those types of fabrics and things like that. So that is true. The Bible talks about that. So that's why it's like people read the Bible in a way that just say like, "Oh, you should do that just because you do that." Well, the Bible's trying to tell us things that sometimes it's for our best interest to do things a certain way. Of course, we can't do things perfectly. Of course, we can't obey the law perfectly. That's why He gives us mercy, gives us grace. But we can try the best that we can to try to obey the laws because, like I said, this is for our wellness. It's not just for someone who's trying to just tell us what to do just to tell us what to do. He actually is looking out for us. He has the best interest for us. You know. Now let's keep going. And motherhood. These are laws for motherhood. So when a mother has a child, what does the Bible say about that? Leviticus 12, verse 1. The Lord spake unto Moses. He said, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, if a woman has conceived seed and born a man child, then she shall be unclean 7 days, according to the days of the separation of her infirmity. She shall be unclean. So this is when she has a baby boy. She's supposed to be separated unclean for the first 7 days, right? And then on the eighth day, the flesh of the foreskin shall be circumcised. That's where we get the tradition of circumcising your baby boy on the eighth day. Of course, we know that's what's going on even at the time of Christ. And Paul talks about he was circumcised on the eighth day, right? In the book of the letter of Philippians. And then it says, and she shall then continue in the blood of her purifying 33 days. She shall touch no hollow thing, nor come into the sanctuary until the days of her purifying be fulfilled. So what's that saying? They're saying, what's the modern day saying of a postpartum maternity leave? The Bible wants the woman to be away from doing her manual labor or base their day-to-day tasks for at least 40 days when she has a child so she can bond with that child so she can nurse that child and she can spend a lot of energy and love to that child so that child can grow with a sense of security and understand that the baby is protected. Babies, our brains are still active at even in infancy, very sensitive to things, things that they hear, things that they feel, things that they can see. They are they're soaking everything in like a computer, and it's very important for those first that first year of life that the baby gets a lot of attention because The baby's growing its neurological senses. You know. And then verse 5, but it says, but if she bear a maid child, she shall be unclean 2 weeks, as in her separation, she shall continue in the blood of her purifying 66 days. So that's 80 days. So when she has a male child, she's supposed to be on that leave for 40 days. But when she has a female child, she's supposed to be on leave for 80 days. Now, I read a lot about why this was a difference, and not everybody gave a straight answer. I can just kind of speculate that in a society like this, where it's in a big patriarchal society where boys are very, or male childs are very valued. A woman child doesn't seem to have carry that much value in regards to the desire that the family may have. They may have wanted more male children to carry out their legacy, or carry out the heir, the property rights and things like that. But the woman child, even though she could inherit the property, it wasn't seen as valuable as having a male child. So the Bible explicitly tells the woman to be with the woman child twice as long as the male child. And the only thing I can conclude based off that patriarchal society is that they wanted the female child to understand that she had to receive a little bit extra attention, because in this society, it may not she may not have been seen as valuable as if she was a boy child. And she wanted the Most High. I can only speculate, but I should say that the Most High wanted that child to understand that this child is still loved, even twice as much attention is given to this child, to make sure that this baby is given the extra attention, to become grow up into a baby that is not easily detached from the family. It's going to make sure that the baby is secure and loved. Because like I said, babies, they feel that sense of isolation if the baby's left unattended or neglect. And that's why it's like, we want to make sure that all the children are, loved and cared for as much, so that's why it's like, Most High doesn't, have that type of favoritisms in regards to, the female or the male, because, they're both male and female made in the image of the Most High. Only, that's how it's stated. So it's like, it's not one is better than the other, because the male and the man and the woman both have different properties, and they're needed both in order to create life, in order to have a strong family, a strong culture. They're both important in regards to that. So that's why I said the Most High, He made this law in order for the people to to raise their children the right way. They didn't want women to just go back to work if they were working, especially in the first couple months of the baby's life. You're supposed to be there with your child. You're not supposed to be, I gotta get back to work and start doing things. No, it's like your most important thing to do is to, be the mother of that child. That's the most important thing you are to do. And we can take these laws even to today. We can see that the most important thing, for raising our family is to making sure our women and our daughters, our sisters understand, raising your family is the most important thing that we can do as a culture, because you're implementing the culture to the children. You're the first teacher of the child. First, even with the milk that you give the child, you're teaching the child how to eat, how to breathe, how to walk, how to crawl. So it's like, it's definitely things that are important for those first couple months of life, for sure. So what else? Let's go into work and debt. Like I said, it's not too long. So work and debt. I put this in here because I see that working, especially in our Western society, is very important. We have to work in order to survive. And the Bible says, "A man who doesn't work shall not eat." Basically, so it's like you should be able to work, but at the same time, even at that time in the Bible, everybody worked. People had land; they worked their land. They had livestock. They had to take care of their animals, take care of their land. They built temples. Of course, they built different things like structures, homes. They built roads. So definitely working was always a part of society. But the Most High doesn't just want us to work; He also wants us to rest. And in regards to debt, you know, in life we're going to accumulate debt. Even in the ancient times, they accumulated debt, but also the Most High had something to say about debt as well. We're going to get into that. So, the first thing it says Exodus chapter 20, verse 8. This is the one of the Ten Commandments. I think this is the fourth commandment of the Ten Commandments when it says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shall thou labor and do all your work. So you shall work for 6 days, do all your work, do what you're doing. He said, but on the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Yahuwah or the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, your maidservant, your cattle, nor the stranger that is within your gate. So he said, I don't want you to work, and I don't just cause I don't want you to work, I don't want you to say, all right, I ain't working, but my son, you do this, you cut the grass, you take care of my daughter, you take care of that, you do that. Like, no, no, I want the whole house to work and not just your family. Not to work. I want the whole house to rest, not just your family. I want all the servants that you have to rest. I even want the animals to rest. I even want the stranger that he lives outside your gate that you have them do the menial task on your yard. I want him to rest too. I want everybody to rest on this day. In 6 days, you can have everybody do all their work. On the seventh day, I want you to rest. And why is that? Verse 11. For in 6 days the Lord made the heaven and the earth and the sea and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Or another translation, when it says rested, it means ceased. He ceased from his work on the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the seventh day and hallowed it. So he consecrated the 7 days, be like, this is the day that I want everyone to rest because I finished all my work on the 6 days, and I want you to finish all your work in 6 days. And the seventh day, I want you to rest. I want you to relax. I want you to take time with your family. I want you to take time with the Most High. I want you to just, you know, decompress. Life isn't all about work. Work and then rest. You gotta work, of course, but then you gotta rest. You have to rest your body. When our bodies get sick, what we do? We get really tired, and what we have to do? We end up resting. It's like your body's saying, like, I have to recharge, I have to reset, right? So let's go into a story about the Sabbath. This is one of the first incidents where we hear about the Sabbath in real time. This Exodus 16, verse 3. This is right after they got out of Egypt. And the children of Israel said unto them, would to God we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full. And for you have brought us forth unto the wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. So the children of Israel already complaining. They just got out of Egypt. They already complaining. They talking about how we had all this food, we had all this stuff, all this good stuff in Egypt. Now we in the wilderness and we gonna die because we hungry. And it's like, are they trusting in the Lord right now? No, they not. They trusting in their stomachs right now. They think that their stomach is ruling them. Like, no, it's like, I'm gonna take care of you. So verse 4, then said the Lord unto Moses, behold, I will rain bread. Excuse me. He said, I will rain bread from heaven for you. The people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they walk in my law or no. And it shall come to pass that on the sixth day they shall prepare that which they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. So Most High is telling Moses, he says he's going to rain down bread from heaven, the manna from heaven. And he says, like, I do this so I can prove them to see if they're going to walk in my law or not. And on the sixth day, they can take twice as much bread because, of course, on the seventh day, you're supposed to rest. You're not supposed to have to go out and work and get bread that's raining from heaven because you're going to have twice as much on the sixth day. So in this day, he talks about it, and this is just a very simple, and this also goes with the diet because, after they left Egypt, they had a certain diet that they ate in Egypt, which wasn't always the best food. And now the Most High is cleaning their palate. He's basically showing them, right from wrong, and he's starting it from just the things that they eat. So sometimes we have to fast. Sometimes when we go to a detox, we have to realize that all the stuff that we ate wrong, we're going through it's a type of fast. We're fasting from certain fast foods, or we certain fasting from meats or processed foods, or processed sugars and things like that, processed carbs. And we got to go to a fast and eat the right things. And sometimes we may get extra hungry because we're not used to eating this type of food. So the Most High is really detoxing these people from their mental and spiritual adherence to Egypt with the food.
But also he's also implementing the Sabbath at the same time. So he's like, trying to gradually get them to understand that he has the best interest for them, but they still think that they have the best interest for themselves. And it took them a long time to understand that, mainly 40 years in the wilderness until they actually understood that, wow, God actually cares about us. All right, let's keep going. This is Deuteronomy 15, verse 1. This talks about the debt. I wanted to mention this one. So at the end of every 7 years, you shall grant a remission of debts. So every 7 years, you're supposed to cancel all debts. Now, why is this? This is the manner of remission. Every creditor shall release what he has loaned to his neighbor. He shall not exact it of his neighbor and his brother, because the Lord's remission has been proclaimed. So in the Bible, it talks about how debt is supposed to be forgiven every 7 years. You're not supposed to have long lasting debt and credits, things like that. That's why this society, is going to be destroyed, because it goes directly against that, because we have lifelong debt, we have lifelong mortgages. The word mortgage really means a um, the word mort, comes from mortuary, death. It's a death loan. You have a loan until you die. That's what the word means. So it's like when you have debt until you die, that means you're going to be working your whole life, to pay it off. So it's like, and when you live in a society where you basically live to pay off debt, you're not living to live for the Most High. You're living just to survive. You're living just to pay off debt. Debt is not good long lasting. It's going to destroy your economy. It's going to destroy the people's will to have functional lives. All they're going to want to do is just work, work, work. It's going to make people sicker. This society is very, blatantly against the laws of the Lord. That's why it's so interesting how people always talk about how the Bible is the quote unquote white man's book. It's the white man's book, right? But the Bible clearly says we're supposed to forgive debts every 7 years, and they don't do that in this society. That's why that this society goes against everything that the Bible really stands for, especially in regards to the monetary system. Now, I'm not saying capitalism is just all bad, but at the same time, I'm saying that you have to implement certain laws for the benefit of the people. Because even in this law, it talks about how you may have strangers that try to glean your fields. People have cornfields or vegetable fields. It's like, don't be so excessive with getting all your corn, all your crops. Leave some on the ground for the strangers and for people to try to get some food who don't have that. Like in regards to Boaz, Ruth was able to glean off the garden of Boaz. He didn't make it so prohibitory for her or strangers to kind of get food, because that was almost a welfare service for the people who were poor. So but you're supposed to have these types of things implemented in your society so that people don't live in debt all the time, because eventually that's going to crumble your society. It's not going to be a long lasting thing. So a lot of people don't know this is in the Bible. This is a very big scripture in regards to what we call usury or interest. We're not supposed to really charge our neighbors with interest like that. And if we do, eventually we're supposed to, forgive the debt. And just for FYI, the Department of Treasury is supposed to cover the debt of the American people, but of course they do not. That's in the Constitution. It's supposed to cover the debt of the American people, but they do not do that because, like I said, they even go against their own law. But that's, you know, another topic for another day. Now, let's go about retirement. What does the Bible say about retirement? The Bible talks about retirement? What? Yeah, it does actually. Now we know that all the tribes of Israel they have land, but the one tribe that doesn't have land is the Levites. The Levites are the chosen tribe that are dedicated to the temple or the services of the Most High. They work from sun up to sundown, and let's talk about a little bit about their role of when they start work and when they stop work. So this Numbers chapter 8 verse 23, the Most High spake unto Moses. He said, "This is that belongs unto the Levites." From 20 and 5 years old and upward, they shall go and to wait upon the service of the tabernacle of the congregation. So once a man who's a Levite becomes 25 years old, he is supposed to start working to be a Levitical priest. That is the law. So, like even today, we have something what we call, college, or we have masters, PhD programs. Of course, people usually go in that right after high school. They're about 18, 17. They finish that. They're usually what, about 20, 23, 22, 22, 23. If they go to a higher level education, sometimes they're out 24, 25, 26 years old. And this is around the time, the same way Levites, they become the priest at 25 years old. What also happens at 25 years old? There's been studies that shows that the frontal cortex of the brain matures at 25 years old. So even at this time, the Bible is implying that a man is mature at about 25 years old, and that's when he becomes a Levitical priest as well, when he was from the tribe of Levi. So again, the Bible already had things in place that we're just figuring out things today. The Bible has so much knowledge that we just read it as like, oh, okay, it's just numbers, but it's a reason why it's placed that way. So verse 25, and from the age of 50 years old, they shall cease waiting upon the service thereof and shall serve no more. So the Bible says that the Levites are only supposed to work from age 25 to 50 years old. Wow. So retirement was 50 years old. Man, they pushing retirement to 65 years old. They got in Congress now. They think about pushing retirement to 70 years old now. Because like I said, they want people to work until they die. That's the motto basically of this society. In the Bible, they want you to work when you're in your prime years, as especially as a man. And then, the rest of the years you're supposed to be what they call an advisory to your family. You're supposed to be a historian for your family. You're supposed to teach the elderly are supposed to teach the younger generation how things are supposed to go and how things are supposed to be. They're not supposed to be so busy working because they got to teach the younger generation how to, obey the commandments and, the history of where we come from and, keep us on track, keep an eye on the family. They're not supposed to be so busy working that they lose sight of where their family's going. They're supposed to be the what we call elders of the family. That's why it's like unfortunately, a lot in our community, the so-called Black community, we don't really have a lot of elders. We have a lot of OGs. What's the difference between an OG and an elder? An OG, like you might see him on the street or things like that. You might see him in the barbershop. An OG kind of teaches you what not to do, but an elder teaches you what to do. A lot of OGs can teach you how to not go to prison, but an elder can teach you how to, start a family, how to make a business, how to, take care of your taxes, how to take care of your finances, how to, how to become a better person, how to gain wisdom. A lot of OGs, they give you street wisdom, but they don't give you real life wisdom like that. So that's why, unfortunately, we don't really have that in our society because a lot of people are so busy working, they trying to compete with the Joneses or they paying off debt. They just trying to survive. They don't really have time to even teach the younger generation. That's why a lot of young folks are, really lost. We don't really have a lot of men to really teach us, what's right and what's wrong. Unfortunately, that's the case. But in the Bible, it talks about how after the age of 50 years old, you're supposed to retire from that job and you're supposed to, basically take care of the rest of your family, things like that. But verse 26, but shall minister with their brother in the tabernacle of the congregation to keep the charge and shall do no service. Thus shall do, thus shall thou do unto the Levites touching their charge. So it's like the Levites, they're not just like sitting at home in order to just playing golf, like retirement, how we think about retirement, they still minister their brother, they still teach, they still be in the temple or the tabernacle, but they're not doing the physical labor that comes with the being the priest. They gotta take, Levites, they used before they had a temple, they used to put up the temple, like put up the sheets, the poles, they had to cook the bread, they had to basically, take care of that. And they had to shut it down every day. They had to put it up, shut it down, get the people ready, sacrifice the animals. They had to do that every day. And it's like, so it's like now, when you're 50 years old, you don't have to do the manual labor, but you can still teach your brethren, still be a part of the assembly, but you're not doing that manual work. So again, the Most High is looking out for every detail of that person's life. It's not just about working, working, working. Our God is a very very kind, generous guy. You know, other cultures, you working until you 80 years old. So it's like that's not how the Most High wants to deal with things. And then this is Psalm 127, very popular song. This is the New Living Translation, so it's really easy to read. So it's a song of pilgrims ascending to Jerusalem, a psalm of Solomon. Unless the Lord builds the house, the work of the builders is wasted. Unless the Lord protects the city, guarding it with sentries will do no good. It is useless for you to work so hard from every morning until late at night, anxiously working for food to eat. For God gives rest to his loved ones or to his beloved. So, the Most High cares about our rest. That's one of the biggest things about wellness is about getting rest. You have to take care of yourself. You got to take care of your mind. When Christ was healing and curing the sick and curing blindness and making people rise from the dead, what did he do? He would still take time to himself and isolate himself. He would rest his mind from the people. He would rest his body from doing all the strenuous things he was doing, taking it on people's infirmities. He was able to rest his soul, his mind, his and he would you know be able to sustain that amount of attention from the people like that. And sometimes we have to rest ourselves as well. We can't work every hour every day. We have to take time, and that's why the Most High gives us a day of rest. He gives us a Sabbath. The Sabbath. Man isn't built for the Sabbath, but the Sabbath was made for man. So it's like that's what it's for. So it's a benefit for us. It's not a burden for us. And once we start to understand that, life will get better. I guarantee that. That's just how it is. So that's all I got. Like I said, it wasn't comprehensive. And then the last verse, 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16, it says, "Know you not that you are a temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwells in you." Verse 17, "If any man defiles the temple of God, him shall God destroy, for the temple of God is holy, which temple ye are." In chapter 6, verse 19, "What? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you, which you have of God, and you are not your own?" So the body is a temple of the Most High. He gives his spirit to those he chose to be his temple, and he has chosen to rest in his chosen people that he wants to dwell with, and the believers that trust in Messiah, trust in his Son, who obey his commandments, who follow his laws, who love his law, who love him with all their heart, mind, and soul. He's given them the gift of his spirit, his own presence to be with them. So, you know, but like I said, that comes with understanding his ways and following him and fearing him. Then we will have that luxury of having this Holy Spirit dwelling. So, like I said, but we have to understand, the temple also, we're living temples. We have to be understand how to take care of ourselves. So we have to take care of how we things that we think, things that we take in, whether it be things that we listen to, people we listen to, music we listen to, things that we eat, things that we drink, and also how we work and how we handle life situations. In this society, of course, these the society is not based on the Bible. It's based on basically doing whatever you want to do. It's not based on anything righteous. So we can't expect this society to give us righteousness. So we expect one day to have a rest that's going to come, that is going to give us that rest that we've been hoping for. We're not going to get it in this world. And it's not just America. I've seen this whole world. We're not going to just go to another country and get this rest. Like there are shows that people retire and they go and live in the Caribbean and they think that, oh man, I finally got my rest. No, that's still a worldly rest. We're looking for a spiritual, eternal rest that's not going to just disappear, because you never know if the government decides to shut things down, they can shut down the rest that you think you have. So we pray and we hope for an eternal rest where it's going to be based on righteousness and not just based on just physical things, that trace that you can buy. This is a rest that you can't put a price on, and that's the thing that we will hope for, that can finally give health and nourishment to our bones and our spirit. So that's all I got. I appreciate y'all listening. Hope y'all have a good day. Peace.